YouTube? What's going on, guys? I hope you all are doing well today, tonight, this morning, wherever you're coming from, whenever you come from. As usual, guys, no insane or complain though today. No insane or complain for this video, because I had been recommended by a subscriber who loves watching the insane or complains. A very sweet person, Shahed Bana. And they had told me a very sweet comment. Let me see if I can put it up on the screen or just read it. It says, "Keep doing this, you are the best, but I suggest you do a reaction of the videos of what is happening in Palestine of destruction, PS, and I promise you that they will become your fans. I'm from Palestine, a Muslim, and I encourage you." And I told them, thank you so much. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the situation in Palestine, regarding the Palestinians. It's just like I'm not super aware either. I really only know bits and pieces, but I wanted to, how do I say? I wanted to do a video of us watching it together, because I don't know enough about this situation, and perhaps if you're still watching by now, you probably don't know enough about this situation, or not enough, but just let's check it out together, because there's a lot to be learned outside of what we have going on in our own personal government. We just don't realize it, and this is definitely a big topic and point of contention. So yeah, let's check it out, guys. I found this video, by the way. It's only a month old, from 1 month ago. The channel seems to be pretty reliable. Al Jazeera English, 9.6 million subscribers. What's the rising violence between Israeli and Palestinian? I'm sorry, I'm so stupid.
Dozens of Palestinians have died in one of the most violent years in occupied Palestinian territory. Many were killed in Israeli military raids. So what's behind the rise, and can anything be done to reduce the tension? This is Inside Story.
I don't think I need captions.
Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Hazem Seeker. The UN is expressing alarm at a rising number of attacks in occupied Palestinian territory. Its special coordinator for the Middle East process has urged Israeli and Palestinian leaders to restore calm. An Israeli soldier was killed when a Palestinian gunman allegedly opened fire at a checkpoint near a refugee camp in occupied East Jerusalem on Saturday. 2 others were wounded. Israel's Prime Minister Yair Lapid promised to bring the killer to justice.
So it's a Palestinian
Earlier in the day, Israeli forces killed 2 Palestinian teenagers during a raid in the Jenin refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. And that followed the killing of 2 other teens in separate incidents on Friday. One of them, a 17-year-old male, was shot in the chest while confronting Israeli settlers at his village near Ramallah. Palestinians say assaults have increased ahead of elections in Israel next month.
No, I've seen the policing over there is very difficult.
I was at home. Our neighbor asked me about my children's whereabouts. I told her that one of them went to buy a few things and the other went to get goods from the store. That's when she told me my son was shot.
He used to dream of having a good future. He is someone who loved life and going out. He was
just shot on
all these
religious
attacks
practice?
are carried out under the protection of the Israeli occupation army and border guards who are present every Friday for the purpose of protecting settlers only.
He is someone who loved life and going out. He was gone way too soon.
All these attacks are carried out under the protection of the Israeli occupation army and border guards who are present every Friday for the purpose of protecting settlers only.
So it's like part of their military, it's part of their policing. That's what sucks.
Well, 2022 has been the worst year for violence in the occupied territory since 2015. The UN says at least 120 Palestinians have been killed since January. Nearly a fifth were children. The youngest was 14 years old. Most were shot dead by Israeli forces during arrest and home demolition raids around Jenin and Nablus.
So what he just said, most of them have been shot and killed during raids and stuff. I follow an account on Instagram because a bunch of the videos of this stuff happening over there have been getting taken down, or at least from what I've been seeing, them talk people that live over there, have been talking about it. So I follow an account on Instagram, and I might link it in the description, but they're staying up to date and keeping everyone up to date on Instagram about the tears that are going on, and that stuff's happening. Like literally, I watched a video the other day where a kid walked up to the window just to see what was going on outside, just to look at what was going on outside. And they saw this kid come up to the window, and thankfully the kid, as far as I know, didn't get shot, but shot the glass, shot the window, shot at him, man. Like, just because he's looking at the window, dude. And it's the government, like it's their own policing. Like, how do you even, you don't have a choice, it's so hard. And then whenever you protest, you get killed. It's terrible, dude.
20 Palestinians have been killed since January. Nearly a fifth were children. The youngest was 14 years old. Most were shot dead by Israeli forces during arrest and home demolition raids around Jenin and Nablus in the occupied West Bank. In May, Israeli soldiers shot dead Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh as she reported on a raid leading to worldwide outrage.
That's terrible, dude. Just killing people for
Let's bring in our
being
guest
there,
now
talking
in
about
Tel Aviv.
it.
Gideon Levy, a columnist at Haaretz. In Haifa, Sausan Zahed, a Palestinian human rights lawyer, and also in Tel Aviv, Guy Shalev, executive director of Physicians for Human Rights Israel. Good to have you all with us. So, Gideon Levy, let me start with you. What do you put this down to? This rise in violence in the occupied territories in 2022?
First of all, the context is that there is nothing cheaper in Israel than Palestinian lives. We see it throughout the years. We see it even in this weekend when one woman soldier was killed.
That's such a strong statement. That's such a strong, sad statement to just say that. But like,
first of all, the context is that there is nothing cheaper in Israel than Palestinian lives. We see it throughout the years. We see it even in this weekend when one woman soldier was killed, and Israel is mourning her death for 24 hours now, while the 4 Palestinians who were killed by Israeli soldiers are hardly mentioned in the media. To this, you have to add the political aspect. We are having now a so-called left-center government, not a right-wing government, and they are always the worst because they always have to prove that they are not soft toward the Palestinians. And the army, who feels that there is no one to stop it, becomes even more happy trigger than before. And you see those killings now, almost 100 victims from the beginning of 2022. And I can assure you, out of those 100 victims, almost 100 victims, 80 at least were people who did not deserve to be killed the way they were killed.
I don't think anyone deserves to be killed. It's so sad that it's just like,
could be arrested.
I don't want to say practice like religious fueled, but just like difference fueled.
Sausan Zahed, what do you think is behind? Why have things gotten to this point right now?
I think that this is not the most important question, the why, because we have been viewing the reflection and the translation of violent, aggressive occupation in the occupied territory since 1967. So it doesn't matter if we're talking about the most deadliest year of 120 people killed, or if we're talking about 20 people who are killed. We're talking here about people being killed, innocent people, civilians, being killed in cold blood by the Israeli army, whether it's one person or 100 person. And the problem here is that Israel views that it has lack of accountability, it has full impunity, it doesn't do and conduct full and transparent and legal investigations, the fact that
that's what it
no
sounds like, just
soldier
killing a kid for
throughout all these years, not only this year, have been found guilty and in criminal liability in a killing of Palestinians. The case of Shireen Abu Akleh had illustrated, unfortunately, the events and the cold killing of hundreds of other Palestinians where they are killed. Even if Israel declares that it has opened criminal investigation, they don't see, they don't basically point to any guilt soldier. They basically, in a lot of the investigation, conclude that either there is no criminal responsibility, or that the person was killed by Palestinians themselves, or that
I bet they're not
bullets
telling
that
the
were
complete
used were
truth, and they
sponge
wouldn't.
bullets
I
and
mean,
not
I
live
get it.
bullets,
I mean,
even though
not them like
sponge bullets are
labeling
also responsible of killing
Israel
people.
and
So
Israelis, but
there
them
is
as an
basically,
opposing
also based on
force
what
that
Gideon
is
Levy
doing
had
something wrong.
said,
Of
that
course,
most
they're
of
not
these
going to take
people are civilians.
accountability.
Therefore,
For the opposing
Israel
forces
does
who do
not
stuff wrong don't take
implement one of the most
accountability.
important rules of international humanitarian.
And I actually, I had a Omegle conversation with a very, very cool and smart gentleman discussing a little bit of this topic. I might even show a little bit of that Omegle conversation at the end. Excuse me, if that'd be something y'all be interested in. But yeah, he was just telling me, and he's from, where is he from? He's from Tunisia. But he was just telling me that everything that's going on between the Israelis and Palestinians right now, a lot of the people even in around there, in that over there, are just watching. Like, no one's really doing anything. No one cares enough to do anything, which is crazy. It's crazy and sad, but just it's also wild and retrospective to get another view on what's going on, especially from someone that's over in Tunisia, a lot closer than me, right?
Sponge bullets are also responsible of killing people. So there is basically, also based on what Gideon Levy had said, that most of these people are civilians. Therefore, Israel does not implement one of the most important rules of international humanitarian law, which is the distinction principle, which they must distinguish between armed people who have been directly involved in military actions and who have been
they've been killing civilians
in a military action at the same time that they were killed, and civilians who in general pose no threat. So there is a violation of international law.
Who controls the Israeli international law like that? Because I know the UN and stuff, like they control the US like war crimes. I'm pretty sure the UN's in charge of that. Like, you can get
army also declare that shooting people can be done only when there is immediate threat on the life of the soldier. And in most of the cases that we have been viewing, we see that the civilians that have been killed, including journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, who like all journalists are counted as civilians, not as military personnel, have not been engaged and have not posed any direct threat to the soldier. And this should be examined, in my opinion, and I can expand on that, as war crimes by the ICC.
All right, Guy Shalev, I want to get your take on this, and we want to point out that much of this violence recently has taken place in and around Palestinian refugee camps in the occupied West Bank. Talk to us a little bit about the context of all of this, what life is like for people inside those camps.
Right, so mainly in the news now we hear about the Jenin refugee camp. I can share that yesterday at Physicians for Human Rights, we had a clinic open at the Balata refugee camp at Nablus, which is another, what Israeli would call hotspot in clashes between Palestinian and Israeli. Balata refugee camp at Nablus, which is another, what Israeli would call hotspot in clashes between Palestinian and Israeli apartheid forces. And from our experience at the camp, we heard the people suffering, we heard the conditions of living in the camp. We heard that approximately 60% of the population of the camp live in deep poverty. We talked to a teacher in the girls' school who says that Girls cannot sleep at night. They're afraid because there are nightly raids to the tomb of Joseph that settlers are coming in, supported by the military. So life in these conditions are unbearable. And when you see that the age of Palestinians who are getting killed, as we can see in this, unfortunately, this weekend, I think this shows a lot about the problem and the deepening of.
So they're just getting killed by like raids, like they're just getting raided for no reason. Like absolutely not. There's absolutely no reason.
We published a report a year ago about the effect, the mental health effect on kids of these nightly intrusions.
Especially growing up in like over there, like I bet the mental health is, and then them having to like go to sleep and like think about these things, like try and manage their everyday life while dealing with the stress of just not knowing if you're gonna be killed tomorrow is terrible, dude. I never thought about the mental health aspects. Truthfully, I never thought about the mental health aspects, but I'm really eager to see what he's about to say.
Kids have been suffering since they were born. Israeli raids, Israeli nightly raids. We published a report a year ago about the effect, the mental health effect on kids of these nightly intrusions by the Israeli army into Palestinian houses all over the West Bank. And you can see more and more kids are getting involved in this struggle. Third generation, sometimes fourth generation refugees to the Nakba, living in refugee camps. Resistance is maybe their only way of expressing themselves to the Israeli occupation forces, and then you can see the results in these clashes and of course the casualties.
Gideon Levy, do you think there is a chance of further clashes if this cycle is not broken? Is there any chance, any opportunity to reduce the tensions? If this
will there be more clashes?
Gideon Levy, do you think there is a chance of further clashes if this cycle is not broken?
Maybe I'm just being rude, but dude, reporters are not
any opportunity to reduce the
but
tensions?
just questions like these are so obnoxious.
No, there is no possibility to reduce it because
I know. Come on, dude.
The Palestinian people under the occupation is in one of its worst points ever. They are totally divided, lacking of leadership. The world had totally abandoned them, including the Arab world. They are lonely, they are bleeding.
I heard about that,
and nobody cares about them. And at this point, we will see more and more resistance, but not organized resistance as we saw it in the second and the first Intifada, but more an expression of desperate young people who go and are ready to pay any price for the dignity, for the freedom, for the most basic things. And I cannot, unfortunately, I cannot describe any scenario which leads us to a better reality right now, because Israel obviously has no intention to put an end to the occupation. I claim it never had, but it doesn't matter now. Now, nobody even speaks about it. The world is occupied with some other issues.
That's what I heard, dude. That's what I heard. But with that gentleman from Tunisia, he was just like, the world's distracted. No one's caring right now, which is sad, bro. That's unfortunate.
It will change phases. There will be a little calmer periods and then more aggressive periods. But by the end of the day, this cannot be solved without a real political solution. And we are far from a political solution more than ever before.
So the UN expressed.
Sausan Zaher, how much of this is on the Palestinian leadership?
Urge leaders to restore calm. They're urging them to restore calm. How about they come in and restore it themselves? I'm obviously aware that not everyone should get in everyone else's business, but at the same time, it's like, how are you going to urge for peace but not make it happen, or at least not try and come in and do something besides telling other people what to do? It's obnoxious.
Sausan Zaher, how much of this is on the Palestinian leadership, and the point that Gideon was making there, that there are so many of these young people growing up in the occupied territories right now who don't see any kind of hope or any direction from their own leaders.
Yeah, that's true, but let us not forget, unfortunately, that we are now towards an Israeli election for the Israeli Knesset, where the Israeli parties are basically very much focused on internal Israeli stuff, on whether Bibi will become or he will not become. And also the division among Palestinian parties also is not basically giving any kind of positive contribution to the situation in the West Bank, even though the killing of innocent people in the West Bank does have a weight and does have a space, of course, among the Palestinians inside of Israel, Palestinian parties. But again, the election in Israel, including the division among the Arab political parties, is taking a lot on the account of what is happening in the West Bank. And even if we take the other sector, which is also the human rights organization, because whoever as well reveals and exposes the violations of the occupation are not only the Palestinian or the Arab political parties in Israel, but also the human rights organization. If we take, for example, the Palestinians in the West Bank, the most important of them, like Al-Haq, have been declared as terrorist organization, while they have been documenting war crimes, including the killing of innocent people, the subject of our
so they're being labeled terrorists because they're holding the
human rights in Israel.
Israeli
on the
actions
other hand,
accountable.
if they do want to appeal, for example, on the lack of investigation or the closure of investigation of killing of Palestinians by the Israeli army, and they approach or petition the High Supreme Court of Israel, they also get confronted by dismissals from the Israeli Supreme Court, because the Israeli Supreme Court,
so they just get dismissed. They're truly, yeah, dude.
Justice,
I don't know what's going on, but they're doing the Palestinians so bad.
Order the army to
That's sad, bro. That's sad.
To fulfill accountability and justice, basically does not interfere or intervene in any of the discretion of the army in any conclusion of investigation. So therefore, regarding the Palestinians, unfortunately, they don't have any remedy on the local level, whether it's Israeli level or Palestinian level. Therefore, and based on also what I started to answer in my previous part, these killings comprise war crimes. And like the case of Ukraine, where Karim Khan, the prosecutor of the ICC, did order the opening of criminal investigation in the killing of innocent people in several events by Russia, this standard should also apply on the killing of Palestinians by Israel. There should be no double standard in investigating and finding criminal liability of people who are criminals, who are committing war crimes, like in this case of the Palestinians. And I must here say one thing or comment on one thing that was in the introduction of our discussion, where it was mentioned that Prime Minister Yair Lapid said that he will bring justice to the soldier that was killed by a Palestinian. This justice that Lapid talks about is one-sided. Never have the Israelis
it's politics, dude. Politics is always one-sided. Unfortunately, how sad,
hundreds and hundreds of
both
Palestinians
sides are all
that have been unfortunately killed by cold blood in order to serve the occupation of Israel in the Palestinian territories.
All right, I want to bring back Guy Shalev and get his take on this. I saw you nodding in agreement to some of that.
Yes. Basically, what's I think important to understand in terms of the Israeli public, in the Israeli public idea, they are always reacting. Always the IDF is reacting to Palestinian aggressions. But if you're thinking about the elections which are coming up in a few weeks, But this government, this whole time that the government was in rule, they called themselves the government of change, but this was a change for the worse for Palestinians. So even when the elections were far ahead and not even in sight, you could see growing aggressive measures against Palestinians all over the West Bank and Gaza. Safariyata, settled communities that are being deported, and ethnic cleansing basically of this region. You can see changing the status quo in the Temple Mount. The first time since 2015, there are age limitations on prayers at the Temple Mount. So these aggressive measures are piling up, but in the ears and eyes of the Israeli public, this is totally transparent. They always see only the reaction of Palestinians to these measures. And then they
well, you know, at the end of the day, it's good that it's even good that we're watching it because it's slowly,
so the election is
hopefully becoming a bigger, you know, a bigger spotlight for people to look at.
All these aggressions didn't need this cause even to happen way before we were approaching the election.
Gideon Levy, you mentioned earlier that you don't see anything positive coming out of this, that you don't expect this violence, these constant attacks to fall at any point.
Spit it out, bro.
Is there
it's payback for asking stupid questions?
Is there? Are we seeing? Could we perhaps be seeing the beginnings of a longer sustained Palestinian uprising?
Not for the short
The way that he
future.
phrased it was interesting. Uprising. Well, I guess I'm just looking at it the wrong way, but
to fall at any point. Is there? Are we seeing? Could we perhaps be seeing the beginnings of a longer sustained Palestinian uprising?
Not for the short future. As I said before, I don't see the Palestinians finding themselves a leadership which will lead them to an organized uprising, to a third intifada. It rather will be the intifada of the individuals, but it will continue and continue without any progress and any achievements. You see, the Palestinians really tried everything. Nobody can accuse them that they didn't try everything. They tried diplomacy, they tried violence, they tried the
yeah.
legal,
What do you do, man? Like you can't blame them for being
they
mad.
really
You can't
try
blame them for
anything, and by the end of the day, time is working against them, and the situation today is much worse than a few years ago. It calls now for really a new discourse. It calls now for a new leadership, obviously. It calls now for new means, because what is happening now will not lead them to anywhere. And I say it with a lot of pain and sympathy and solidarity.
That's for shooting at. But
this will not lead to anywhere. Israel is by far too strong. The Palestinians are by far too weak. And the world is by far too indifferent. And in this combination, it will be very hard to get progress. Something must change, and hopefully it will come from the international community.
Sausan Zeher, do you think that there is a chance that things could change? And how hard is it to get this discourse in the public mind, given everything else that's happening in the world right now?
Now, I think that there might be change. The question is on what level. And one of the aspects of change that I would like to illustrate, because there are, as I said, several levels, but one of them is basically the acceleration and the increase of the critique of the regime, of the Israeli regime, as being an apartheid regime, not only as an occupation regime that has been exercising a violation of international law.
That's a good point.
Only in the West Bank and Gaza. Let's not forget as well the blockade on Gaza and the killings over there.
Which is unfortunate,
but also
man. Nothing
inside of Israel. And why this is important, because every October since October 2000, Palestinians inside of Israel have been commemorating the killing of 13 Palestinians in Israel by the Israeli police. Now, exactly like the killings in the West Bank, where there have no soldier have been found accountable to the killing of Palestinians. That's exactly the same situation of the killing of Palestinians in October 2000. It was in the beginning of the second intifada. So the same treatment of lack of accountability and impunity is over there towards Palestinian, no matter where they are. And the fact that international organizations such as Amnesty International, such as Human Rights Watch, such as the Israeli organization B'Tselem, and other organizations inside of Palestine have been calling not only to stop the aggressive occupation, but also to stop the apartheid.
This dude does not like her talking. I know she does talk a lot, but this dude keeps
in this direction.
Second,
I just want to give what's probably going to be the last word on this in the minute that we have left to Guy Shalev. Do you see anything on the horizon? I mean, how do you see this playing out? Is there anything on the horizon that you feel could give people hope?
Unfortunately, no, I cannot be a bearer of
why is he asking stuff
here.
Like that?
I think we should, if we start with where we started this discussion, we go back to the kids, to the children. I think this is the key here. And if you see the children, Palestinian children, growing up in this reality, getting tougher and tougher, it reminds me of a book by the great South African author Coetzee, The Age of Iron, of these last years of the apartheid regime in South Africa, and how the kids living in that moment just became tougher and tougher, and they lose fear, they lose respect to the leadership, they lose respect to their families and members, and unfortunately we'll see more and more clashes between really young teenagers and the occupation forces.
We're going to have to leave it there. Thanks very much to all three of you, Gideon Levy, Sausan Zahir, and Guy Shalev. Thanks very much for being with us. And thank you, as always, for watching. Remember, you can see this program again anytime. Just go to our website, aljazeera.com. And for more discussion, there's our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/
Damn, dude. At least this was a very informational video. I'm going to link this channel. One conflict after another. There is so much bloodshed, man, and it's so unfortunate too, because it's like, I get that. How do you say? It's like Palestinians are being oppressed and like over time, but it's just like a war that it's like, you know, you can imagine why like any Israeli is gonna be like, well, that Palestinian guy came to our checkpoint and killed a guy or two, and you know, and the Palestinians gonna be like, well, y'all killed us. It's like, it sucks, man, and no one's there helping the Palestinians right now. Like, they definitely, like, I'm surprised that the UN made a point to like tell the local government to like keep it under control, but not actually do anything about controlling it. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I think the UN dipped their hands into the Ukraine situation. So it's like, why are they not helping here? Why? Excuse me. What's a different situation? Because if anything, here, the Palestinians are almost helpless. So it's just very unfortunate situation. I'm gonna link this channel into the description. But guys, I think the best thing we can do. Thankfully, this does have, you know, a fair chunk of views, you know, and I think the best thing we can do is just spread the word to people around us, you know, because this has been ongoing. This has been ongoing for a little bit of time. Obviously, y'all saw the video just like me, but best thing we can do is spread the word. I know I'm so far away. I'm all the way in Texas, you know, United States, but at the end of the day, you know, this is a real topic. This isn't a video game. It's not a movie. You know, we see this stuff in like movies and plot lines and books and stuff, but the thing is, this is real life. It's not a video game, you know, so it's a very sad situation. I think we'll just do our best to spread the word. Man, sad deal, man, sad deal. But I appreciate y'all coming to the content. I appreciate y'all watching this video. Hopefully we can spread the word together, guys. If y'all appreciate the content, please consider subscribing. If you appreciate the video, please consider liking, guys. Y'all have a blessed day.
It's pretty fucked up. I mean, when you look at Palestine right now, it's
There's a lot of shit going on. Yeah, dude. What is really going on? Because I don't really know the. You know.
Like Israel is just, oh my God, it's just doing so much things, and nobody's talking about them. Literally nobody's talking. Everybody's just watching. Even Arabs. I mean, even like Tunisian, Algerians, Moroccan, Egyptian. Just like if you come to Tunisia or Morocco or Algeria or whatever country, like Arab country, if you ask them like about Palestine and all, they all furious and they're all mad. They all want to do something, but the government's just watching. I mean, how many Arab countries are they? They can take down Israel and stop it like in a matter of days. They just don't wanna. There's something bigger, of course. Something bigger, of course.
Oh, I feel you. There's something bigger going on.
Yeah.
It's just crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yes. It's crazy. Like Palestinians are just suffering. Nobody like give a damn.
Yeah, dude, that's terrible, man. I've been seeing. I follow an account on Instagram that's keeping up.